Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured, why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say, I'm watching so-and-so show. And then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it. And that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 5, Episode 4 of FX's Fargo, entitled Insolubilia. So, the term Insolubilia is another word, I just ran right through that, didn't I? Insolubilia is another word for what's commonly referred to as the liar paradox. So straight from Wikipedia, here's a brief explanation of the liar paradox. In philosophy and logic, the classical liar paradox, or liar's paradox, is the statement of a liar that they are lying. For instance, declaring, I am lying. If the liar is indeed lying, then the liar is telling the truth, which means the liar just lied. So you get the paradox, right? I think we best see this dynamic at play, or start to get into play and then shut down in the interaction between Whit and Dot at the hospital when Whit tries to lie about not being at the gas station in the premiere episode. I don't think we see the paradox at play here necessarily. I just think that we see something like Dot almost setting up the paradox, but then Whit going, no, we're not going to keep playing this game where you lie and people pretend that maybe you're telling the truth. No, I remember you, and we have the camera footage that shows you were there. This is the reality. And then Dangerous is like, well, we have our own reality. And Whit's like, no, we're not playing that game either. You don't. And I, for one, and this is me talking, not Whit, I, for one, really appreciate Whit's relationship with logic, facts, and reality. Very similar to my own relationship with those three things. But this was a roller coaster type of episode, but not necessarily in the traditionally positive way that you may think, or that phrase is traditionally said. I'm really struggling with this LOY. I thought I was like, literally? Anyway, this episode had both a lot of ups and downs. I thought this season started off incredibly strong, but these last two episodes have me a bit concerned about what the show seems to have kind of settled into being. This episode, I feel like it got a little too cute at times, and I think it sacrificed a lot in order to do that. And of course, I'm going to talk about what I mean when I say too cute, but the best example of this, I think, is in the Roy plotline, which really left, I think, a lot to be desired this week. The place we ended up with Roy seemingly having settled on making sure that there are no more distractions from abducting Dot, that's an interesting place to be. I like that. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes and what a completely unbridled Roy is going to do. But the way we got there was tedious and boring as fuck. Like, I was sitting there watching the episode going, if this motherfucker don't stop speaking in biblical fucking riddles and get to the fucking point. Like, man, that closing scene where he kills the guy who was abusing his wife, that scene was long as fuck. And you don't even get to the point of the scene until after it's already over. Like, so rather than that scene being, like, intense or suspenseful, like it was meant to be, like it was played as, I spent the whole scene shouting at the TV like, "Why are you here? Get to the fucking point." It's like I was frustrated that the character within the scene was just letting Roy sit there and just babble fucking bullshit without even asking. Like, you haven't even said why you're here yet. Like that just really irritated me. And I just feel like they lost all of the potential drama and tension from that scene by having Roy just speak in fucking biblical riddles for 5 minutes, kill the guy, and then tell us why he did it. Like, that was, I don't know, man. I just felt like those are, like, again, that was too cute to me. Like, you didn't have to do all that shit, man. Just, like, I just feel like I didn't need to know the plan necessarily going in. Like know that, okay, Roy is going to this guy's house to pretend like he's Muslim. Like, I didn't need to know all that. Just don't spend the whole time leading up to the murder having Roy say nothing of value. Like, maybe have him, like, start that way, you know, speaking cryptically, but then slowly transition into something where the audience can kind of gain that realization. Like, oh, wait, I see where this is going. And then you can build the tension, and then it works. But, like, the whole time, I'm like, well, I guess he's here to kill him, but I have no idea why. And he's not even making a half of an attempt to tell me. So, like, I don't know, man. I really didn't like how that ended. Another example of issues that I had was while I did enjoy my Home Alone scene that you guys know that I've been looking forward to for a couple of weeks now, I do feel like how it was edited, like it felt a little bit disjointed to me. Like I had the fact that I even had to rewatch it, I think is problematic. But I did rewatch it, and everything tracks. But while watching it like live, I kept feeling like I had to rewind it because things weren't clear enough. Like, of course, the natural assumption here is human error, right? Like, I get it, right? And if a bunch of people in the comments are like, "Yo, that shit flowed perfectly. It made perfect sense to me the whole time. I don't know what the fuck you talking about, Mike." Fine. Like, I will consider that maybe I was just like, I don't know, not altogether there. There's a strong possibility I was maybe like 30% high when I watched it, but like, okay, let's just go through the highlights, right? So, just to humor me. So for starters, I did like how they set the scene, right? I had no issues with like how long it took to kind of like get going. Like, I enjoyed that build up, like a haunting rendition of "I Got You, Babe," and then, you know, creeping around the house with the masks on. They know for some reason too, like, I think. I'm sorry. I think it's really kind of like corny and played out how anytime somebody's trying to do something scary, they got a mask on, they do this shit a lot. Like, yo, tilt your head, that shit mad scary. Like, I don't know why they always, have you noticed that? They always anytime they got a mask on, they're doing this shit. Like what is that? Like when Gator, like, he comes around the corner or something, I think he like the door is open or something, or he sees does one of these. Like, no one actually, like, have you ever once in your life looked at something interesting in the distance, you try to examine it and you go, you ain't never did that shit? Like, what is that? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so once the lights go out and Dot starts to go to work and do her thing, I thought it got like a little discombobulated. She sprays pepper spray in the eyes of that very first guy, and then she pushes him into like the basement stairwell, and then down the stairs. He goes all the way downstairs, and then she closes the door. Then later, after she escapes from Gator, she goes into that same basement to hide. And I'm like, didn't you just push one of the guys down there? What the fuck, right? And I rewound it to watch it again because I'm like, yo, don't tell me this shit is that sloppy, right? And that guy does appear back upstairs in the scene right before Dot goes down there. So it does check out. But here's the thing. It's dark. They all had masks on. I don't know these people. I only know Gator. I don't know the other people. Like, that was too quick of a shot of that person who I don't know in the darkness for me to catch that it was the same guy that she had pushed down the stairs earlier when I didn't see him that time either because he had a fucking mask on. So, like, yeah, it technically tracks. Like, I noticed it was the same guy because when I rewound it, he was holding the same mask. But I don't like that I had to go like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Let me rewind it and double check. That takes you completely out of the scene, right? And like, so I have a hard time believing you guys were following that shit. Like, oh, that's the guy that got pushed down the stairs. He's back up. Like, come on, man. Like, that shit wasn't all the way there, right? At the end of the day, though, there's a big scene, and they built up to this for a while, and I just feel like it could have been edited a lot tighter. later during this entire sequence, once they've reintroduced Wayne and Scotty into this, and the one guy gets trapped under the ladder, which I thought that entire sequence was weird too. For starters, how fucking heavy is that ladder? Like, he can't just push it off with his hands. Like, I don't have an attic like that, so I've never even encountered one of those ladders. Maybe they are insanely heavy. I don't know. But just asking. Anyway, Gator starts to go downstairs into the basement to follow Dot after she went down there. But we see Dot has, like, she had the ladder in the laundry chute. She climbs up the ladder to the upstairs, and that's when they, Scotty and Wayne, they come out the attic. Then she tries to send them back down the laundry chute where Gator presumably should be, because he was going down in the basement to follow her. But then now Gator's coming up the stairs and she's busting shots at him and shit. Like, bitch, get out of here. You're shooting at him. And I'm just like, man, I just really wish this was edited a little bit cleaner. It's like, it just felt all over the place. And then we don't even get to see the fucking bag get used. Yo, was that like a red herring? Like, yo, let's make the dopest fucking thing and think that we're gonna, like, make the audience think that we're gonna plant this shit to the head of, like, Gator or some shit. And they do, like, these 2 near whacks on Gator, and that's it. Like, that's it. Like, I didn't even get the fucking bat, man. I don't know. So as the scene's ending, Wayne decides he's not going to go down the laundry chute, like Dot says, and he's instead going to go out of the window. And in the most Home Alone moment of the entire sequence, Wayne is electrocuted, trying to open the window to the point of what I thought might be death, due to the trick wiring that Dot had put on the windows. This also says the curtain's on fire, and then they have to escape through the window and down a trellis. I actually looked up trellis because they said that, and even though I saw it, I was like, still, what is that? It's just a thing that I guess people put up alongside of their houses to help, like, vines and those sorts of types of flowers grow, to give them, like, a thing to, like, wind around and to hang from or whatever. But they climbed down this trellis. Well, Wayne didn't climb down it. And there's other Home Alone stuff too. Like, I thought the use of the laundry chute was intentional. Like, I was actually sitting there expecting, like, if she drops an iron on Gator's face, I'm going to Leonardo DiCaprio meme point at the screen. But while I'm on the subject of references, I want to ask you guys a question. So, there's a scene where Lorraine, which is Wayne's mother, she's doing an interview with Forbes, and she's explaining how her company does a service for everyone by offering what sounds like very basic debt consolidation. And while this interview's happening, that one assistant of hers, he's the black guy, not Danish, he comes in and he tells her that Wayne's house is on fire, and she listens. And then she continues talking about her company, and she says that people don't want a handout. They want to be able to help themselves, and that's what her company does. And do you guys think that was meant to play like how Bush responded when he was told about 9/11 when he was at that school? Because that's kind of what that seemed like to me. Like, it was visually identical. And I just think that the show is trying to draw parallels anyway between Roy and Lorraine and, like, today's the fringe Republican Party. Like, I don't know. That felt very spot on, but, like, this hasn't been, they haven't really referenced Bush necessarily. Like, I felt like a lot of this stuff is meant to kind of make people connect to Trump. Like, oh, this is very Trump-like. Not necessarily Bush, but that really felt like when he was told about 9/11 when he was in that school reading that book. Like, so let me know if you guys picked up on that, but that's what I thought. And while we're on the subject of debt consolidation, there's a good segue into another thing this season is doing that feels a little bit too cute. I feel like most people don't care, and to a large degree, I don't. But there's just something about it that feels a little bit too, hey, look at us trying to make a point over here. And it's too much. But when Indira is on the phone, Indira is the female police officer, the one that's pregnant. When she's on the phone with a debt collector over something her husband owes, we begin to hear the voiceover from Lorraine's Forbes interview about debt consolidation. And I'm like, okay, number one, this is kind of corny. Like, period. This is corny. And two, I guess somehow Lorraine is going to be in a position to use Indira and her husband's debt as, like, leverage over her. I'm fine with that aspect of the show. I'm just not a fan of the technique. Like, I don't know. I just thought that was a little bit much. Like, okay, this is kind of corny. And they do it multiple times. Like, that's not the only time they've done. That's a thing that they've been doing this season. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan. Like, even like the visual overlays, I kind of like those a little bit better because they almost seem like the characters are talking to one another. Like whenever Roy is, like, staring at the ceiling smoking weed, and he's like, there's like an overlay of Dot. It's almost like Dot can sense that. So I kind of dig that aspect when they do it like that. But this fucking thing with the voiceovers, like, Another thing that I found kind of disappointing is I said there was a lot of ups and downs, but it kind of sounded like it's mostly downs. Another thing I kind of found disappointing about this episode was the Munch storyline, or to be more specific, the lack of it. So, for starters, the culmination of him breaking into Roy's house was really fucking underwhelming, since I have no idea what the fuck he put on the wall or what it means. And it's another example of the show, I think, like, fucking up an opportunity to get some emotional buy-in from the audience. Like, yeah, you showed me that shit, but would it have hurt to maybe have, like, flashback to 500 years ago Wales and explain what the fuck that is, so I can know a little bit more than Munch went in the house in a really creepy way and did some really creepy shit? Too bad I don't know what the fuck it means. Like, don't you want to give me a little bit more than that? Like, I don't know. That just felt like, I don't know. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. Then there's the other scene with his not mom. I'm telling you guys, it's not his mom. Where he does more long, drawn-out babbling before he says that he wants pancakes. I just thought they did a really good job of setting up something really cool with Munch in the last episode, presumably for this one, and then said, fuck that story in this one. And it's the same thing that frustrated me with the Home Alone setup two episodes ago. They set it up 2 episodes ago, but they didn't pay it off until this one. So now I want to close out by talking about the hospital scenes and then just giving a couple of closing thoughts. So we first get to the hospital. My nose is just, I'm sorry, y'all. It's just really tickling me. I swear I don't do coke. But when we first get to the hospital, not that there's anything wrong with that. We hear Dot coaching Scotty about how to lie about what happened. She tries to put a positive spin on all of the misfortune that has befallen them. And as she's doing this, like, daylight is breaking. And, like, I thought that was really corny, too, dog. I'm like, what is this, fucking, like, PBS or some shit? Like, what? What, just Sesame Street? Like, what kind of stupid fucking shit is this? That was corny, man. Like, oh, but good things don't happen to bad people. Or bad things don't happen to good people. It's like light shining and shit. I'm like, next thing is gonna be some fucking organs playing. I'm like, I'm sorry, y'all. Anyway. So Lorraine arrives, and her and Dot argue briefly before Whit and Indira arrive, and they have the conversation that I mentioned at the top when I was talking about the episode title, before Dot receives word that Wayne is awake. And in this scene, I liked when Lorraine asked Scotty whose fault it is that the house caught fire, and Scotty immediately does not lie and say that it was Jack Skellington's fault. I just thought that was funny because I'm sitting there like, wow, she's really coaching her on this lie. And then at the first opportunity that Scotty gets to perform, she fails to lie. When Dot visits Wayne, he seems to be kind of out of it, but the first thing that he says is Nadine, as he caught Gator calling her Nadine during the Home Alone scene. And she reminds him she's his wife, and he says, my wife, tearfully a few times after that. And it just made me wonder if, like, he has doubts, but he's still so out of it that he can't quite verbally express it yet. So the tears are him kind of, like, being confused / possibly hurt or understanding that something is amiss, but not quite being with it enough to vocalize that. There's also a big deal made of someone in a room near Wayne's that's been waiting 4 hours for an enema before he is to have part of his cancerous intestine removed. I don't know where they're going with that, but the fact that it has something to do with an enema, and I'm watching Fargo, and there's been a surprising lack of extreme violence, I'm really concerned for that guy's asshole in the next episode. Like, if something happens to that guy's asshole, I want you guys to come back to this video and be like, yo, you a smart motherfucker. You caught that shit. You knew they was gonna gape that motherfucker. Sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I have no fucking class. All right, so I want to close this out with just one thought, and it's about the scene when I guess he's a judge or something, and he's talking to Jaqueen and his partner, and they tell the judge about Roy and his militia, and I think it's Lorraine's father. And this guy is clearly in Roy's pocket, as he uses the story about Chinese killing sparrows to make a point about how getting rid of one problem can now create bigger additional ones. But more importantly, we learned that Roy is missing 2 wives and not 1. Like, I thought that the point was clear that this guy was very clearly trying to tell tell them to leave Roy alone. But like, again, the two missing wives, I found that to be pretty interesting. We know obviously that Dot, well, at the time of this conversation, Dot was one of the two. After the conversation, they learned that Dot has been found, or Nadine is now Dot, or whatever. So in their mind now, there's only one missing wife. But you guys get the point. Two missing wives. One of them's obviously Dot. Who is the other one, and what happened to her? And then I gotta assume that's gotta be Gator's mother, right? The other one? Like, cause I don't know if I've verbalized it on here yet, but I've been wondering who Gator's mother is for like 3 episodes now. And they intentionally never said anything about it. He's too old to be the son of Roy's current wife, and I think too old to be the son of Dot. So like, I feel like he's gotta be this the son of this other missing wife. And then I wonder too, when we do find out about this other missing wife, how that's going to tie into the relationship between Gator and Roy. So that's all I got for this week. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and until next week, peace.